want to tell you a story. It is a story about identity and how identity might begin with the way you look, what skin color you have, or what you do for work. But it's up to each one of us to make sure that our identity doesn't end at that. It's a story about feeling good in your own skin, and yes, even models have problems with that. It is my story. I might not be the obvious TED presenter. Unlike previous presenter, I haven't won a Nobel Prize. I haven't come up with a strategy to prevent global warming, and I'm definitely not here because of my academic qualifications. I do not have an MBA. I do not have a university degree, and I even didn't finish high school. This is why I'm here today. In 2009, I won Germany's Next Top Model. Out of 20,000 young women from all corners of Germany, they choose me, the daughter of Ethiopian immigrants who moved to Germany in the 1980s. This came as a surprise, not only to me, but also to many Germans. After all, I'm not your typical German blue-eyed, blonde-haired beauty. I grew up in Erding, a small town in Bavaria. For those of you who've never been to Erding, it's known for its very good beer, for their strawberry fields. And yes, it is also very white. I was the first black baby that was born in the town's hospital. Yeah. Even in the newspapers, yeah. I was the only dark-skinned person in my high school. And for better or for worse, the color of my skin always made me stand out while growing up in Bavaria. Well, into my teens, I was the black baby of Erding. It was part of my identity, and for most people, the main part of my identity. Despite this, apart from one or two silly remarks, I never experienced racism. Redheads and geeks with glasses had it worse than I did. Yep. When I was 18, my boyfriend at the time signed me to Germany's Next Top Model without telling me. I did okay at the first casting, got through to the next, and I just took 1 week off school because I didn't expect it to stay much longer than that in the competition. But I did, and I get from one round to another and to another until I finally made it and, became Germany's Next Top Model, which makes me very, very happy, but not just me, but also my family very, very happy. To my surprise, this happiness was shared by many young immigrant women. Immigrant with, immigrant backgrounds. Not just black girls, but also Turkish girls, girls with girls of mixed race, girls who are a few shades darker than the Heidi Klums and Claudia Schiffer they all know and love. I had German people approach me on the street telling me that they too had to cry when I won. Serious German newspapers, they normally focus in real news like currency devaluation or armed conflict rather than casting shows, wrote that this moment showed a new side of Germany, a tolerant Germany that embraces diversity and appreciates people who looked like me and my three sisters. Above all, my 3 months of posing and pounding out in the public eye made a few people think, and now I know it sounds silly, but it made people take a second to think what it means to be German, who they consider to be German. For me personally, it meant a whole new life almost overnight. Here I was, suddenly in a world of glitz and glamour. Suddenly my face was all over big billboards and the Cosmopolitan cover. As you can see, not just my face. Within days, within days of winning the casting show, I had already secured contracts with major brands such as C&R, Maybelline, or Gillette. I had entered a whole new world with bow-tie-wearing chauffeurs, five-star hotels, and suddenly I was rubbing shoulder with celebrity that I recently, until that, I only knew from glossy magazines, from my hair salon, from my hairdresser salon. So I was one of them all of the sudden. Shortly after winning Germany's Next Top Model, I was invited to Wetten, dass, Germany's most famous television show, in front of a live audience of 10,000 people and just under 10 million viewers at home. I found myself squeezed on a red sofa next to Placido Domingo and 3 other celebrities. Just a few hours earlier, the receptionist at my hotel refused to give me a room because I didn't have a credit card. I was 19 years old and had never owned a credit card. Why would I? Just a few weeks earlier, I was still working as a shop assistant at American Apparel for €7.25 an hour. It's like things moved fast, really fast. What seemed like a blink of the eye, I was walking down catwalks of New York, Milan, and London Fashion Week. I was even presenting the Academy Awards, the Oscars for the German television. It was all very new and all very exciting, and yes, I had a lot of fun. Above all, winning Germany's Next Top Model provided me with amazing opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise. The biggest privilege of all was being asked to be an ambassador for Menschen, a German NGO that provides emergency aid to Ethiopia and gives Ethiopians and helps Ethiopians set up schools, build wheels, and supply hospitals. In September 2009, they invited me to go to Ethiopia to get a better understanding on the ground. When I told my parents that I was going, they cried and honestly cried for hours because for them, organizations such as Menschen has given my family always hope. Hope that the world have not given up on Ethiopia. I felt extremely honored to be going, but I had no idea what to expect. The Ethiopia that I know and knew and also loved was what I just get known from my parents' stories. My time in Ethiopia was spent meeting hundreds of people across the country, from smiling orphans in Addis Ababa to exhausted nurses working in makeshift hospital in the western part of Ethiopia. Along the way of clouds of dust on the side of dirt roads, I saw endless lines of children carrying huge containers of like 10 kilograms containers, some filled with water, some empty. The most heart-wrenching encounter was in Metu, when I visited our elementary school. What was presented to me as a classroom looked more like a cowshed where 50 children were squeezed inside. There was no sunlight, there was no air. It was really suffocating. And there was not even a floor. The kids sat in mud what went up to their ankles. You know, it is one thing to hear and to read about such conditions, but it's something completely different to see them with your own eyes. Standing in that school, overcome with a deep sadness of what I just saw, I made myself a promise that I will do my best as I could do to help these children and the Menschen Foundation. Well, when I returned back to Germany, I visited school across the country, kept telling the children what I have seen in Ethiopia, what experience I made. I wanted young Germans to understand how privileged they are. I wanted them to understand that education is nothing everyone can take for granted. I wanted them also to become aware and also engaged. A little later, I was invited to an event in Berlin, marking a cooperation agreement between the Clinton Foundation and the German government. It was attended by several senior, really serious-looking German politicians, as well as Bill Clinton himself. I was almost the only woman in the room, full of very serious-looking advisors, and assistants who were constantly whispering to each other and writing things down. Believe me, I felt like a fish out of water. But then I was introduced to Bill Clinton, not as Sara Nuru, Germany's next top model, but Sara Nuru, young female ambassador for an Ethiopian aid organization. Suddenly, I wasn't just Sara Nuru, the black baby of Erding, or Sara Nuru, Germany's next top model. I had been given a brand new identity, an identity that seems to fit, and I felt good. But then, suddenly, I felt bad on myself. Why does my sense of self-worth have to depend on how others see me? It made me realize that a lot of our insecurities, including my own, come from the labels given to us. Not just the labels given to us by others, but also labels given by ourselves. The identity we choose to define ourselves by. Over the next few months, I found it increasingly difficult to juggle between my different identities, between the glamorous world of red carpets on catwalks, as well as my work, like my social work for Ethiopian and German school, but also my private life and family time. I started doubting myself, my work, even my whole existence. Was my main goal in life really just to earn a lot of money and be famous, just for the sake of being famous? Could I feel good about myself knowing that for the price of the dress I wore, like the Roberto Cavalli dress I wore at some fashion week, I could actually build a small school in a village in Ethiopia? I once heard a saying that stuck in my head. It is better to be a purpose-driven nobody than a red carpet somebody. More and more, this is how I felt. That is why in 2013, I decided to take a break, to take a step back. I cut loose. I left my model agency, I let go my agent, and canceled all my work commitments. I knew that I was taking a risk, and believe me, at some point I was also doubting myself, did I do the right thing? But for the first time in my life, I felt free. I was able to live a normal life out of the spotlight. And I had also time to breathe, time to think and, take a step back. And it did me a lot of good. I returned to work after more than a year, managing myself with the help of my sister. We set up a company and moved to our own office, teaching us ourselves almost everything about negotiate with clients or set up contracts. Unlike before, I only took jobs that I really wanted to do. It was a great feeling to be independent, to be in control of my own life. A turning point was when a friend of mine gave me a book written by Blake Mycoskie, a philanthropist and founder of TEDxWHU. The book was called Start Something That Matters, and it's about the power of incorporate charity in business. I found the book fascinating and I wanted to know more. So I had the chance to meet Blake during one of his visits to Germany, and we clicked instantly. When we kept in regular contact, and after bouncing ideas back and forth for almost a year, we managed to team up 2 other models and set up the initiative Models Give Back. The idea behind the project is that for every customized shoe that we sell, a big cut goes to a charity of our choice, in my case, Menschen for Menschen. I can honestly say that this was one of the remarkable, rewarding moments in my career. It was rewarding not only because I was involved in all aspects from the very, very start to the finish, but also because it gave me a sense of purpose, a sense that my work as a model didn't have to be as trivial and superficial as I had thought. A few months later, I had finally the chance to go back to Ethiopia, back to TEDxWHU, and to follow what I promised. Together with Menschen for Menschen and on behalf of the support of the German students, I was honored to open a brand new school. To my surprise, it's called Sara Nuru School. For the first time in my life, I realized that life isn't so much about juggling multiple identities. It is about merging these different sides of who you are into one, like a puzzle. Sometimes all it takes is a breathing space, a chance to step back to see the bigger picture. Realizing this has given me a better idea of who I am, of what drives me, and what really makes me happy. Identities change, they evolve. Who you are right now might not who you are in 5, 10, or 15 years, and that is okay. Today I'm a model and an activist, Ethiopian activist, yeah. But at some point I will, I hope, also be a mother and a wife, and hopefully much, much more. You never know where your journey will take you. The most important thing is to remain open to everything that life throws at you. Identities might begin with the way you look, what you do for a living, but it's up to each one of us to make sure that our identity doesn't end at that. Starting with ourselves. Don't let yourself be pigeonholed by others, or more importantly, by yourself. Thank you.